60 years is a long time. And it's amazing to me that I'm here right now digging through all of this old work again after all of these years. I was born in 1944 in northern Minnesota in a town called Bemidji, which is the first town on the Mississippi River. And there really wasn't a lot of high-end art going on in that community. And so when I was growing up, the only thing I had in relationship to art was the fact that my two older brothers, who when they came home from the military, would work with me. They would sit down and draw with me, and they said that they got their drawing skills from an uncle who used to carve fish decoys for ice fishing. And so when I finally got to school, I was drawing better than most of the kids, so I got a lot of support, and I thought, hey, I got something that's going for me. Let me see how far I can push this. I helped my dad with logging and with carpenter work when I was growing up, and I figured that was sort of going to be my life for a long time. And then teachers started giving me some real encouragement, and I applied to the local college, Bemidji State, it's called Bemidji State University now. It was Bemidji State College then. And I got a scholarship. I taught high school for a few years in Wisconsin, got married, decided I was going to go to graduate school. But unfortunately, the first day of graduate school, I got my draft notice. I registered for classes, came home, found the draft notice in the mail. Got a deferment long enough to finish the course that I was enrolled in. And then Nancy took me to the bus station in downtown Eugene, Oregon, and she headed back for the East Coast, and I got on this olive green bus who headed for basic training. And this was, of course, in the late 60s during the Vietnam War. I lucked out again. I was designated as somebody who had civilian acquired skills, and I didn't have to go to advanced infantry training. And they sent me to Fort Bragg, North Carolina to be an illustrator with a psychological operations unit. After the Army, I applied for graduate school. I got into American University in Washington, D.C., and my wife was just finishing up her graduate work at George Washington University. So for a few years, we stayed in Washington, D.C. And then decided when I finished graduate school, again, I lucked out. I was given the Graduate Painting Award, and they kind of hinted that they wanted me to hang around, but I really wanted to get out of the city. So we went back to northern Minnesota, and no jobs, trying to figure out what we were going to do, and one of those lucky things again. I was in a placement office at the local college late in August, and looking through the card file, no computers at that time, I was looking through the card file to see if there were any late job openings, and had my back turned to the secretary, and somebody came out and said to her, "Do you know anybody with an MFA in painting or in art?" There, I raised my hand, said, "Right here." And the community college in International Falls, Minnesota had an art opening. I took the job. And we spent 8 years there building an art program working with Voyages National Park. After 8 years there, we decided that we wanted to explore the graduate school options again. And I got a fellowship to go to Ohio University to work in their comparative arts program, which was combined visual arts, music, and theater, and spent a year in the PhD program. Didn't like it because I couldn't paint while I was there. So I dropped out, and got a job teaching in Indiana. My wife and I were both hired by the same campus, and in the art department, and taught there for a couple of years. And the school really didn't suit us, so I started looking for a job again. I quit that job with no prospects, and did some part-time work while I was trying to find another college teaching position. And then I opened up the Chronicle of Higher Education, and there was an ad for Green Mountain College in Vermont. And we'd been through Vermont once, and we really liked it. So I was just getting a reject application back from Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and I just took my photographs of my artwork, changed the cover letter, put it in an envelope, and sent it to Green Mountain the same day. And that was on, I think, a Friday. On Monday, I got a call from the art faculty at Green Mountain College saying they'd like me to come for an interview. And we ended up at Green Mountain and building a new 4-year art program, and with Susan Smith-Hunter and Richard Weinstein. And I spent 21 years there and really enjoyed it. Towards the end of my time at Green Mountain College, I was encouraged to apply for a Fulbright and work with our international programs a little bit. And I ended up getting a Fulbright to South Korea, and was very interested in that because of the brush painting and the traditional crafts or traditional painting techniques, which I'd taken a course in Asian painting as an undergraduate and really wanted to know more. And so I went to South Korea as a Fulbright scholar. And that same year, I was in South Korea for 6 months, and that same year we had an exchange program with the University of Wales, and they invited me to exhibit and do a residency there. So 2002, 2003 was all abroad, a semester in Wales and 6 months in South Korea. So I retired in 2010 and have a studio here in Pulteney, which I have kept since I think 2008, and have been active in the community, and was really, I think I'm so grateful that there was support for Stone Valley Arts, because Burnham Holmes came up with the idea for Stone Valley Arts and asked me if I would help him out, and the two of us sort of became the founders of Stone Valley Arts, along with David Mook, who's a local poet. And that's what brought me here. Here we are in Stone Valley Arts in 2024. Wow, it's been a long time. A lot of people ask me what my creative process is like, and this show, I think, probably shows that it's changed through the years. But right now, I'm still working on, I'm nearly 80 years old. And right now, I'm still working, turn 80 next month. And I have a studio here in Pulteney, and I work a lot. I think about art all the time. It's what I do. And I think one of the things that people who aren't involved in art, don't really think about is that they think that, okay, you get an idea for something that will sell, and you go back in your little study and you make something that will sell. The reason I got all of this stuff is a lot of the stuff hasn't sold. So I make art because I have to at this point in my life. And I'm usually working on 3, 4, or 5 pieces at a time. And one of the interesting things that I found out is that everything I'm working on seems to generate like 6 more ideas. And so you end up with this situation. So you do 30 paintings in a year, and each painting generates 6 more ideas. I've got to live a long time to even begin to make a dent in that. So you get a sense of that, I think, in terms of going through the show. I walked into this gallery the other day when I had everything up on the wall. And I just sat over here in the corner for a while and looked at it. And I was really, the hard part about doing this show was the stuff that I can't show. Because, this is just such a small amount compared to the stuff that I have. The focus on creative process, which was Vernon Holmes' idea, allowed me to do some things that I wouldn't do otherwise. And so I can't put up this large piece, but I can put up a piece that's related to that and accompany it with a photograph, and people can connect with it in that way. But I think the thing that really struck me when I was sitting in the gallery that day, this really felt like me. And I was really, really comfortable with the fact that this was like me. One other thing that I would like to add, and I don't think I've mentioned before about the show, and I think people will be kind of surprised about. For the last 6 years, I've been working on and off with the poet Bianca Zanella about creating process. And she would send me poetry that she was working on. I would send her photographs of artwork that I was working on. We've taken and set aside a part of the library gallery walls. That's a transition between the upstairs gallery and the downstairs gallery here. And we're going to have some of her poetry up, and she actually got me to write some poetry too. And we've got them matched with the artwork that they're related to. I think a lot of people will be interested in that. And I think that may go someplace yet. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with her. Hello, everyone. I'm Dick Weis. Welcome to Stone Valley Arts. And what we're doing here today is that I'm in the process of installing an exhibition that is really a small retrospective spanning nearly 60 years. So what we're going to do is kind of take you through a walk in this upstairs gallery and give you an idea of what's here. There are a few things that still need to be put up and refined, but you get a pretty good idea. The pieces that you saw in the entryway are the earliest pieces in the show. Their earliest one is 1965, done while I was a senior in college up in northern Minnesota. And the other one is the first, Emphasis Red is the name of it. It's the first piece that I've ever shown in a professional context, and that was shown at Winnipeg, Manitoba in January. Show up there. So you've got a variety of things to look at. Over in this area here, we'll see some of the earliest paintings that I did related to graduate school, coming into graduate school out of the Army. This was a painting that I did while I was in studies, and these two over here, the stand of the figure, and the painting of my wife Nancy were done as a in 1974. There's a variety of things that you'll see as we walk around. I've spread out a whole series of these banner paintings that were part of a South Korean South Korea exploration that I did as part of the Fulbright program in 2002-2003. And so you're going to see a mixture of those. This particular one happens to be a new update as part of a new series, but I'll show you later one of the very earliest pieces that I did while I was working in South Korea. I'm very interested in space and on how things work and on the creative process, and this whole exhibition is focused on the creative process. This painting here is probably one of the more intriguing paintings in the show because of the strange shape that comes out on the floor, figure at the cupboard. And I won't talk about a lot of the paintings as much as I might talk about this with some of you, but this started out to be only one painting. And then I thought, what is she looking at through the door? And started exploring that and added another one to win. Oh, well, isn't that an interesting space between the viewer and the painting? So the stool and the trapezoid all came into it as part of the development of that painting. When you walk around the gallery, I've put up a number of little photographs of pieces that were actually too big to go in this space, but are related to some of the things that are happening with the other work that you'll see. And one of my interests for viewers who come to see this show is for them to look at the threads that kind of tie my work together, I hope, over a period of 60 years. And so do a little bit of searching while you're here and see if you can figure out what kinds of things carry through the years. This is actually the earliest painting that I did in the scroll series, the banner series. And this was done in my studio in South Korea. And the basis for these particular group of works was the vertical signs and banners that are all over the landscape in South Korea. And the proportions of them actually were inspired by an old Confucian house. And I've put a photograph up on the wall here of that Confucian house in the historic district of Daejeon, South Korea. This is the title painting for the show, A Gift of Dreams. And it really is a self-portrait in a way, and deals with sort of my northern Minnesota heritage. And it was a work that I did with the Midwaywan Society, the Ojibwe people, through the Oberholzer Foundation. Ernest Oberholzer was a noted conservationist. And he was one of the founders, actually, one of the people who worked out the agreement that's called the Boundary Waters Quetico Agreement between U.S. and Canada. Over here, a piece that started as an idea in South Korea, but in the end, I ended up doing it when I got back to the United States. And after visiting the demilitarized zone in South Korea, between North and South Korea, and I was really struck by some of the restrictions of the area, the idea that right over there you can see North Korea, and there were villagers that had to go through checkpoints every day when they went about their business. So I hope you'll come in and look at these, sit down, spend some time with them as you go through it. I tend to explore materials a lot, and different materials really make a difference in terms of the kind of the expressive quality that you get in a painting or construction and assemblage in this particular case. There's a whole, I wish I could have shown more of these here, the Covenant series, but that was just an inspiration coming back from the trip to the East Coast while I was living in the Midwest. And I was really struck by the tensions that I felt on the particular campus that I was working at that particular time, and wondered, how can I explore the idea of tension with that work? And actually stopped the car along Interstate 80 and had my wife drive while I started sketching out ideas. But read the little things that come with this as you go through. Some of the works, like I said, were too big for the exhibition. This is actually one part of a triptych, and put up a photograph of the whole triptych here. Some people are very disturbed by the noose here, but if you pay attention and you know knots, this is not a slip knot. This is a bowline knot, and it's a rescue knot. And the latter refers to rescue rather than to something more dire. And when I do the multi-panel paintings, I'm really interested in the idea that each painting by itself will function as, each panel will function as a painting by itself. And so I felt very comfortable taking this apart and showing just one part of it. And you'll see that in a couple places in the show. This whole wall down here is sort of my social commentary, social history wall, the big pieces that are here. Sometimes you just have to do something in response to an event. And this had to do with a sarin gas attack in the early 2000s in the Japanese subway system. And the center painting, see, I'm really not sure where all of that came from. I was very struck by, I had a big canvas, I had a ladder leaning against it, against the wall. The sunlight came through and created a beam of light and a shadow. And I started with that. And then the surroundings kind of, I think, led to the final result of it. The title of this particular piece is Tomorrow the Birds Will Sing. And you can make of that what you will. Over this corner, we have a painting that came out of the Iraq War. And somebody pointed out to me the other day when they saw me putting it up that it could be today. Because looking at the little NBC logo down here and the live broadcast from Tel Aviv, it could have a contemporary relevance. But I was really thinking about the bunker bombs and all of that were introduced in the Middle East. And I guess you could do this kind of painting in U.S. history just about any time, and it would be relevant. I wish I could have put more of these particular pieces in. This is part of an Song series. And I explain in the write-up here that the Song came from a book by Howard Gardner, and has to do with sort of a fundamental idea in sound. Do people all over the world have a basic vocabulary of sounds that form their languages? Is there a core? And I thought, I wonder if that happens in visual perception as well. And so here, I'm exploring some things and asking some questions. Why? Does a painting have to be rectangular? What happens if you don't? And so I started doing irregular shapes. And now I was only going to do a series of 10 or so. You get a glimpse and a couple drawings over on this wall. But this is Urson, I think, 105. So the series kind of extended itself through time. I've got some little pinups over here, photographs of some large-scale installations that I've done. And I thought about the possibility of putting them out on the open floor here. But, you know, this is, what is it? 72 inches high, 247 inches wide, and 96 inches deep. It would pretty well fill up this room and limit the activities that can be done here. This work over here with the deer antlers, you know, is part of actually one panel out of the triptych again, and I put up the whole thing here. The whole thing is 100 inches wide. But there again, I think the single panel all by itself works. And I think I feel comfortable showing you that just as it is. You've probably noticed as you've been walking around that there are little quotes that are on the walls every place, and hope those are meaningful to somebody along the way. So that gives you a pretty good idea of the upstairs gallery, and we'll look at the downstairs gallery as well. Well, here we are in the downstairs gallery at Stone Valley Arts. As I mentioned before, the upstairs gallery is mostly the older work, and most of the work down here is from the last 4 years. The exception is this little corner, which is an introduction, and I've got some older work here, some figure drawings from graduate school, a photograph of one of my graduate thesis paintings, and one of my first, very earliest ink wash drawings done with a stick and ink. And right now we're kind of sorting out things on the table to see what things might go up on this wall. And I've got drawings from South Korea. I've got some older work that I did as illustrations for the National Park Service, Voyageurs National Park in northern Minnesota. A couple watercolor studies. I think this one is from Seaport Harbor Museum in Connecticut. So there's going to be a variety of things that go up here. And I think one of the things that you can draw from this is that my drawing style is designed to transition into my painting. And the ink wash drawings really do that for me. So we'll move on to the next wall where I've got some ink wash drawings and talk about those. So this wall really was one of the anchor walls for the downstairs gallery. I could visualize what was going to be on this wall very early on in the process. There's one exception to the idea that these are all newer paintings, and that's this drawing here. This drawing was one of the Fulbright South Korea drawings where I was using ink wash. And I wanted people to be able to come into the gallery and see that along with the newer work that's along the wall. So take a look at the paper and the way that the brushwork works and see if you see a link between those. I put these two paintings in the show, even though they're just a little bit older than some of the others, because a lot of people wonder why I don't do, or I'm not showing highly representational paintings. I do a lot of portraits. And actually, these two pieces are abstract portraits of specific individuals. And in some cases, I'll do a very classical kind of portrait or 17th century style kind of portrait on a sort of Rembrandt or Rubens kind of portrait. But this is something that I used to do with my classes when I was teaching. I asked the students to do a self-portrait that had no objects in it, and to choose colors, textures, shapes, composition that would reflect who they were. And it was amazing how well they did. Other students were able to identify the student who did the painting, not by the style, but by the expression of the piece. So these obviously are two different people that are being represented in these paintings, and I hope people will really think about the possibilities there. I'm not going to talk a lot about individual paintings here, but one of the things that people do ask me at times is about the framing, and I still build my own stretchers for the canvases and do most of my own framing, especially for the canvas pieces. So you see a variety of things here. One painting on this wall that I really want to talk about is this large painting. Down in this end, you see there's a 5-panel painting, and it's called All That Jazz. And it was actually the sketches and kind of idea for this painting started to develop during one of the jazz sessions at Stone Valley Arts here. We have the piano right here and the little group set up over to my left. And so I started working with that and thinking about, the rhythm, the bass playing through it, and layering. I was particularly interested in the layering of the music as they improvise their way through. And it fits so much with what I wanted to do in painting. So, pretty big piece. Another anchor piece. This is the only wall in the gallery it would fit on, so I had to put it there. So on this wall of the gallery, some quite recent paintings. I mean, these are all late 2023 or 2024. As we look down towards the end, over here, the triptych down at the end is the most recent painting that I've done. And so we've got a span in this show from 1965 to 2024. So some of the ideas I'm working with include, well, if you look over here, so we've got a triptych that's a multi-panel painting. And then I've got this interactive piece here. It's designed in such a way that viewers of the gallery, or visitors to the gallery, can start to puzzle out what the painting is. Because it's one painting, but it really builds on the idea that each one of these little panels here could be seen as a painting all by itself, but they all connect some way. And I'm really interested philosophically how that works. That, when you think about how we see, how we look at things, our eyes don't see everything at once. Our eyes scan and see little pieces of things and assemble that image before us. So you get to play with this a little bit here. I first started doing multi-panel paintings in graduate school. I think part of it had to do with the size of my 1973 Pinto station wagon, but the other part of it was that I saw a photograph, a black and white photograph of a Robert Onrait painting that was 16 canvases. Each one looked abstract, but when you put them together, it was the interior of a room. And I really liked that idea, that the paintings work by themselves as a painting, but assembled together, they could become something else. So explore that a little bit here. Now that you've had a chance to see a glimpse of the work in the Stone Valley Arts exhibition, you have a sense of some of the building blocks that I've used for the foundation of my work. There is work that doesn't show up there, and some of them are the things like the old master paintings that I've copied that are still part of my self-education, if you will. And you see Rubens over here and a Fabritius there and a Rembrandt over here. So those things are still going on. And I'm going to be really, really interested in getting, repeat this, getting feedback from you, the viewers, about what it is that you see that ties my work together through the years. And, the process is going to continue to go on. I'll continue to work. I really don't have an concrete idea of what's going to happen in the future. I've got all sorts of avenues that I could explore that interest me. And I hope that's the same in your own lives. That's the way the world works. One of the things that will be happening during the exhibition is that I will be spending a lot of time in the exhibition space. So when visitors come, they can see me working. They can ask questions directly of the person who's done the work. So do come by and visit. Thank you for coming by, and thank you for seeing the exhibition.